Over the next 4 months, most of the other Nazi leaders testified in their own defense. Some claimed they had merely been following orders. A few admitted responsibility for crimes. The defense finally rested on July 25, 1946. The next day, Robert Jackson delivered his long-anticipated closing argument.
Mr. President and members of the tribunal, it is impossible, in summation, to do more than outline with bold strokes the vitals of this trial's mad and melancholy record, which will live as the historical text of the 20th century's shame and depravity. It is against such a background that these defendants now ask this tribunal to say that they are not guilty of planning, executing, or conspiring to commit this long list of crimes and wrongs. They stand before the record of this tribunal as blood-stained Gloucester stood by the body of his slain king. He begged of the widow, as they beg of you, "Say I slew them not." And the Queen replied, "Then say they were not slain, but dead they are." If you were to say of these men that they are not guilty, it would be as true to say that there has been no war, that there are no slain, that there has been no crime.
On September 2nd, after 216 days in court, the International Tribunal retired to deliberate the fate of the accused. Four weeks later, the defendants were brought up to the courtroom for the last time. The overflow crowd hushed in anticipation as Lord Lawrence read out the judgments the tribunal had reached.
Defendant Hermann Wilhelm Göring, on the counts of the indictment on which you have been convicted, the International Military Tribunal sentences you to death by hanging. Defendant Rudolf Hess, on the counts of the indictment,
Göring and 10 others were to hang. 7 defendants received prison sentences. 3 were acquitted. Göring's wife and daughter were allowed a final visit. Emmy Göring believed that they would never hang her husband, but intern him on an island, like Napoleon. Göring demanded a firing squad, an execution he thought more befitting his rank. "They will not hang me," he vowed. His request was denied. At 10:45 p.m. on October 15th, 2 hours before Göring was to hang, a guard noticed him put an arm to his face and begin to choke. He had managed to get hold of a capsule of potassium cyanide. Within a few minutes, the Nazi warlord was dead. "I decided to take my own life," Hermann Göring had confided in a letter to his wife, "lest I be executed in so terrible a fashion by my enemies." His body was taken secretly to Munich and burned, the ashes scattered in a local river. Over the next 2.5 years, the courtroom in Nuremberg saw 12 more trials of another 184 Nazi officials, including physicians, judges, bankers, and industrialists. 24 were sentenced to death. Robert Jackson returned to the U.S. Supreme Court after the first trial, where he served until his death in 1954. He was never appointed Chief Justice. Jackson's hope that an international system of justice would deter war crimes and crimes against humanity has yet to be realized. But Nuremberg did establish an important precedent. Those responsible for atrocities, even heads of state, could be brought to trial. And if the hand of vengeance were stayed, justice could prevail over evil.